Right, Nigel, we move around to the back of the combine to talk residue management, or in English, chopping and swathing. So what have you got going on here? Because it looks like it's still the same as a sort of a CX around the back of here, but
you're quite right. The panels themselves do belong on a CX 6.90. And if you have a look here, you can see that where the straw is coming out off the back of the rotors is actually a little bit farther forward than you would traditionally think of on a CX. That's because the rotors are shorter than the walkers themselves. We've got two aspects to residue management. Obviously, we've got the chop drop aspect of it, but also we've got the chaff spreader itself. Now, on the 6.90, the CX, the chaff spreader is mechanically driven off the straw walker drive. No straw walkers, guess what? No chaff spreader drive. So what we've had to do here is we've had to lift the chaff spreaders straight from the CX flagship. So we've got hydraulically spinning twin discs. We've had to put an additional pump to be able to drive this. We use the V-shaped paddles. And the advantage of the V-shaped paddles is that when you're modeling how the chaff is going to come off the discs, you know that at the base of the V is where the chaff is going to exit the disc. So it's a lot easier to get maximum momentum onto the chaff itself to get the spread pattern that we need for either a 28 or a 30-foot header.
So using that the hydraulic drive, does that mean you can vary spread pattern on this then?
Yes, it does. So depending on how much chaff's coming over the back, depending on the header that you've got on the front of the combine, you can adjust the rotational speed to get exactly the spread pattern that you need off the chaff spreader.
So moving on then, right now it looks as though we are swathing.
We are.
So if we wanted to go to chopping, what happens?
What happens?
Because this looks like it's just sort of stuck out here on its own.
It looks like a bit of an appendage there on its own. So obviously this is where the straw is going to come out. That's where the straw chopper is. The two have got to come together. So the way that this works is we get these swath rates out of the way. We can just quick release to pull those out of the way. We then
so you have to take those off, or is it just swing out the way?
No, just swing out the way. You don't have to remove them. And then what happens is, using an electrical motor, we pull the chopper forward, goes in. You can see the rail that it runs down here. That goes in, and then we have a quick release on the drive. So quarter turn fastener, quarter turn, undo the belt. The belt is currently in its parking position at the moment. That goes on down onto the drive system. Quarter turn to tension it back up, and the job is done.
There you go.
We've timed it, time doing the change. We've done it in 1 minute 10 seconds. Now I've seen people take longer than that, fanning around trying to go from chop to drop on a CX or a CR. So it's
trying to go through a menu.
Oh well, not trying to go through a menu, but mucking around trying to move a clutch in and out without getting their fingers toasted. So what we have here is a very simple system, mechanically operated, and as they say in the best of places, not a lot to go wrong.
Just keeping it simple.
Keep it simple.
So how many chopping knives have you got across the width of the machine?
It's a four-row chopper, so it's not the sophisticated 6-row choppers that we have on the big CX and CR. However, the sort of customer that will be looking for this machine is probably the sort of customer that is not going to be putting the chopper into gear that often. But what we've seen with this is the chop quality coming out the back is more than sufficient for what people are looking at the minute, particularly when we start talking to agronomists at the minute, that what they're looking for is not the fine dusty chop that we can get out of the 6-row chopper. What they're saying is that actually promotes slugs. So what we're seeing now is that we get a manageable chop length coming out of the back, and that means that we don't have to start spending a whole lot of money on the
So they want a more lacerated sort of chop rather than it's like a fine chop.
Rather than a fine chop, as long as the tube of straw itself has got a crack in it, then it rots down perfectly adequately. We had a lot of experience with this with the dual stream header from a few years ago. As long as we could roll the tubes of straw down, as long as we could put a crack into them, they rotted down far easier. Okay,
and it's, I assume it's pretty much straight off the chopper into the spreading vanes on this, is it?
Straight off the back, there's no intermediate. With this machine here, we do actually have a compensation for wind, so we can electrically move the vanes from side to side, so that we don't get a build-up of chop material on one side of the machine.
So that's just an actuator on the top of the vane?
Yeah, it's a Lin actuator on the top there, just to be able to move the vanes either side.
And if you're going up and down a field, obviously you've got the wind going in one direction. Do you just alter that manually as you turn, or is there a bit of automation in there?
On this machine, you alter it manually. On the big CX and CR, there's a memory function on the chopper.
Again, keeping it nice and simple with this machine.
Keep it simple.
Perfect.